When I bought this book, David Hawkins' Letting Go, about a year ago, I read a few pages and essentially put the book down and didn't read any more up until just recently. I don't know exactly why I didn't read it, but I'm glad that I did now because this book, or the thoughts that it inspired, gave me one of the most important lessons in my life. Of course, not everything in this book is perfect, far from it, but it does really give you another insight in human emotions, meditation, and consciousness. That's why today I want to talk about this book and what I've learned from it, and hopefully by the end of this video, you've learned something yourself. David R. Hawkins was mostly known for being a psychiatrist, spiritual teacher, public speaker, and author. He's written many books, but perhaps his most popular one was and is Letting Go: The Pathway of Surrender. On the surface, it's a simple book talking about this one method that can be explained in 30 seconds. But if you dig deeper, you will find that this book is about understanding both negative and positive emotions in a way that you have a better relationship with yourself. And this conscious understanding was the thing that I needed to learn in my life alongside the letting go method. Let's first talk about that letting go method. As I mentioned, the letting go method is very simple and doesn't take up much time to understand and learn. It does take a longer time to practically implement though. This method is for letting go of negative feelings and desires. What you do is this: you first need to notice the negative emotion that you are feeling. Next, you need to identify it. So for example, if you notice that you are uncomfortable because of the emotion or emotions that you are feeling, you first need to recognize the emotion that it is. From my experience, it's usually anxiety that comes in a form of an uncomfortable feeling in my stomach. Then what you have to do is focus on how that emotion feels and let it act out by itself. Don't force the feeling to go away, and don't even think or wish for the feeling to go away. Just notice how it feels, notice where the feeling is. And if you do this, you will enter a stage of meditation where you just slowly let go of that particular emotion. Of course, this is short term and that emotion will most likely come back. So the long-term solution with this method is to keep doing this exercise until it becomes easier and easier to let go of emotions. At first, this method seemed very shallow to me because it seemed that you are just ignoring emotions and just ignoring the way you feel. But one of the points of this whole exercise is for yourself to become calmer, and calmer in a way that you are actually then able to rationally figure out the reasons for your negative feelings. Another thing that this method gives you that doesn't seem that it would give you at first is that you actually consciously bring emotions to the surface and you actually express them. Most of our lives we tend to ignore emotions by distracting ourselves with pleasures or activities that grab our focus. The letting go method makes you actually sit down with the emotion and feel it, and in that way the feeling becomes more familiar than just always being pushed down into the subconscious, which later on makes that emotion come back in uglier ways. According to David Hawkins, this method takes time to yield results, and so he recommends keeping a progress journal in order to track even your little accomplishments to make the whole process of noticing feelings and letting go of them easier. When I read and understood the letting go method in the first dozen pages of the book, I thought to myself, okay, this method is very simple. Why are there 250 plus pages more in this book? Well, it's because David Hawkins goes in detail in pretty much every single emotion, making it easier to notice it for yourself and to understand it better. That's the main thing I got from this book, understanding emotions. If you don't follow me or know anything about me, my main philosophy of life is Stoicism. Now, Stoicism has changed my life in so many positive ways, but it also gave me a lot of unnecessary suffering in a way of not explaining fully what it means to control emotions. If you don't know, in Stoicism, the mind is above the body, rationality is above emotions. In many instances of Stoic writings, the emotions take a back seat, whilst rationality is the most important thing. I agree with this somewhat, but now I believe that it's impossible to learn to control emotions without first understanding them. Controlling your emotions, ignoring feelings, all of these things sound good on paper, but in reality, you just push your feelings down into your subconscious, and one day, when those feelings accumulate, they manifest in this uncontrollable chaos that is so uncontrollable and influences you that you can't really be ready for it to control it. I made a full video of how Stoicism tends to ignore the depth of emotions, and I recommend watching that video. I now believe that once you learn your emotions, once you explore them, you can then apply Stoicism in order to control your feelings and take a rational approach to everything. That's why I recommend this book, for a more in-depth understanding of emotions. There are some bad things about this book in my opinion, and one of those things are, for example, its constant struggle between being of science and psychology material and trying to take a more spiritual approach. For example, there was this one part of the book where he talked about desire. David Hawkins said that if you let go of desire, this will bring you way more success than just putting in hard work. This could be true in some cases, but his main argument was manifesting. If you hold the success in your mind but don't desire it, you then attract it. Like, he used this example of finding a new apartment that he wanted with using this method. These types of parts of the book didn't really click with me, but everything else was really worth it, from the letting go method to the deep exploration of emotions. Final verdict, I recommend this book.